Welcome everyone. This is our last video. Today is Thursday in our Great Depression unit, and I want to hope you extend a well wish to you. I hope you guys are doing well. A couple things I want to go over before we begin. In my last video, the audio is it's not very good. I don't have any reverb or softening matting in my room, so it's hard to hear. There's a lot of bass. So whenever a video is tough to hear like that, I'm just going to also copy and paste that video from YouTube so that you guys can just listen to it yourself, not listen to it through my video, like me listening to it. You know what I mean? So that way you guys can hear it. So just keep an eye out for that. If you're ever having trouble hearing anything, I'm aware of it, and I've probably gone ahead and I've given you a workaround. So today, our discussion question is a little bit different, so I'm going to go over it with you. It says, think about some people or local businesses that may be struggling because of the quarantine during this pandemic. Do you think the government is responsible for helping them during this difficult time? If not, why not? If yes, what type of programs should the government offer to help people? Here's where it gets important, guys. This is just like our question commons in our physical classroom. Please do not play around with anyone else's information. You're going to go up here to the edit button, and you're going to be able to edit information. Now, I will be able to go through here, and I'll be putting my first name, Taylor Hanson, and then my answer. I'm not going to mess with anyone else's information, okay? Because unfortunately, I'd have to do the digging and find out who did what, and fortunately, Canvas makes it actually easy. If you guys didn't know that, like, Canvas gives a lot of analytics. Like, we can find out how many times people have logged on, how much time they've spent on this, how many clicks for that. So just don't worry about it, okay? Worry about your own answers. However, go ahead and read from someone else's answers as well, because there's a lot of knowledge to be shared that way. So, what kind of programs do you think the government should give to help our current situation during the pandemic? As you guys have gone through and talked and learned and listened this week about the Great Depression, I'm pretty sure that you've drawn some parallels between what happened in the 20th the 20s in the 1900s and now what's happening in the 20s in the 2000s. So let's talk about a couple programs back then that helped kind of pull our populace out of the Great Depression. Before we start, it's important to remember why our country was so prosperous leading up to the Great Depression. I'll give you about 5 seconds to think about it. Think WW1. World War One. Yeah, wars, although not very great and have a lot of negatives, some of the positives include industrialization and basically kind of mass industrialization, pulling people from other sectors of the workforce and really getting them to unite behind an idea and just going full throttle and basically working, producing, supplying, selling. And the economy really takes an uptick from that. We know why the stock market crashed. We know how it impacted people. We know that people who left their bank or people who left their money in the bank, about 90% of their money just disappeared. So the government needed to offer some programs. Let's talk Social Security. Okay? A lot of you probably have heard of Social Security, but what does that mean? Okay? Social Security basically gives security to those people later in life who have retired or are or have a disability. If they have paid into their retirement program, Social Security will help kind of give them a monthly dollar amount so that they can sustain themselves into their older age. Their Social Security falls under lots of different things. So, Social Security is a really important one because they didn't have that security net back then. So a lot of people felt the gravity of losing all their money without having any options. That's yesterday we talked about the community and how the communities came back and helped one another during these tough situations. The WPA, or the Works Progress Administration, here employed millions of people, mostly men, to build streets, bridges, and public buildings. I think it's important to go ahead and hear or explain the mostly men part. We know that men and the equality between men and women at this time is not where it was now, and we also know that now it's not where we want it to be. But I think that there's a reason why they put four men into this place. Okay, now a ton of the women during the Great Depression lost, those who were working, who were not stay-at-home moms, lost their jobs as well. But a majority of them were taking care of their children. A lot of them were at home, and when the father lost the job and the kids needed food and the kids needed clothing, a lot of times the women would bond together and help get what their children needed. A lot of times they would go ahead and kind of go to neighboring mothers and get what they needed from each other for their children, while the fathers were out making what money that they could. And a lot of times families didn't have this privilege. A lot of times the mothers would have to find work as well. They probably wouldn't find a lot of work in the manual labor industry, but a ton of them needed to go out and find work just so they could make ends meet. The the BPR, the Bureau of Public Roads. This is a very interesting thing. One way our country helped get itself out of the Great Depression was by kind of interconnecting our interstate systems with highways. And so we have one of the most, or at the time, we had one of the most advanced and quickest growing highway systems in the entire world. And that's because we needed to get people back to work. So the government created these programs to get them an opportunity for that work. The FDIC, I'm sure that some of you have heard of this. The FDIC stands for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And this is pretty, let me explain it to you this way, try to make it as simple as I can. During the Great Depression, if I held my money in a bank account, we already knew that the bank account was taking my money and investing it in stocks. They were taking my money and doing other things with it, trying to make that money multiply, trying to profit from my money. And we also know that 90% of my money disappeared when the stock market crashed. So the FDIC is a governmental agency that just creates confidence and stability in the banking industry. If I make a deposit for $10, the FDIC says, hey, guess what? You're going to get your $10 back when you want to withdraw it. Now, there are some stipulations. So if I go and I deposit, $100 million, then that gets a little tricky. But for your average citizen, the FDIC is there to promote confidence and stability. I want to know that when I put my $10 in the bank, I will be able to get my $10 back. And finally, the Public Works of Art Projects. The PWAP it was created to employ artists to decorate public buildings and parks. Earlier, we were kind of talking as teachers. This one's kind of interesting because it puts a lot of artists back to work. You guys know by now that my wife is a singer, and I am around many of my good friends here in Denton are artists. Some of them are actors, some of them are photographers, some of them are singers. And one thing that I've noticed really very quickly is during this pandemic, one of the first groups of people that were hit were artists, specifically artists who gained their notoriety or who gained popularity by bringing people together. So I'll give you an example. My wife is a singer, and her job is to sing, and how they pay for her contracts and how all the money is made is through ticket sales. And so when you can't sell tickets because people aren't supposed to gather together, unfortunately, people go out of work. So artists were out of work very quickly and they were struggling a lot because no one had extra money to buy anything. People hardly had enough money. People didn't have enough money for needs, let alone wants. So the Public Works Art Project gave artists or kind of gig workers, one gig pays me, then I'll find my next gig, it'll pay me, my next gig will pay me, and all of a sudden I piece together my yearly salary. When those gigs go away, then you don't have any work. So the Public Works of Art projects gave those creative thinkers, gave those artistic individuals an opportunity to make money that they wouldn't normally be able to make. So they were taking existing buildings and existing structures, and the government's like, hey, let's make these look better. Let's make them, give them a little artistic flair. So these are some programs: Social Security, Works Progress Administration, the Bureau of Public Roads, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and the Public Works of Art Project. I will go ahead and link this right here. This gives you a much larger list of the New Deal programs for those of you that are interested to go ahead and find out what year these programs came out and are they still helping our society today. So I hope you guys have learned something interesting this week. I hope you guys have drawn some parallels between the 1920s and the 2020s. And I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe, staying healthy. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. Next time you see me, my hair will be a different color. And I have a little competition. If you answer on your discussion question for things I learned, so Friday's discussion question, things I learned, I'm going to be reading those like always, and I'll let you guess the color of my hair. If you guess the color of my hair, I will get you a surprise. I know we don't do our ticket drawings in person anymore. However, if you guess the color of my hair, and we will have that revealed next week, I will hook you up with something. It's going to be legit. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited. Still can't breathe through my nose. Still don't know what day it is, but I hope you guys are doing well. I've been thinking about you. I miss you. Be safe. Have a great week.